A lot changed in the last 70 years since the Farm Bill was signed. America was fresh from World War II, and thousands of soldiers were returning home, many of them hungry and malnourished. Their loved ones in the United States weren't much better off, having lived through years of rationing to help support the war effort. Then the U.S. government stepped in with a Farm Bill. This piece of legislation was intended to do several things. It was intended to help stimulate the American economy. By offering farmers subsidies, the government could pump up the economy while also providing food that hungry Americans needed to rebuild their tired bodies. Mississippian Mike Espy is a former congressman and headed up the Department of Agriculture during the Clinton administration. He points to the current subsidy crops as part of the problem.
They're named in the Farm Bill in the 1940s. And these were the dominant crops farmers were growing in the 1940s. And so they just incorporated all these crops, and it was a federal message to the farmers. You know, if you grow these crops, these are the crops that we want Americans to eat. Listen, remember we're talking about 1945. And so these would be the predominant crops at that time. And these crops were wheat, corn, sugar, dairy, and cotton. And these are now known as the white crops. They're still there, and they are sacrosanct.
Exactly, sacrosanct. In 70 years, the crops subsidized by the government have not changed, despite their lack of health value to Americans. And what happens if farmers decide to grow something healthy? Teresa Hanna from Mississippi Center for Health Policy has spent plenty of time studying the subject.
In Mississippi, 99% of the cropland is used to grow those crops that are subsidized by the federal government. So we looked at the subsidies. Corn, soybeans, rice, there are several crops that are subsidized. Fruits and vegetables don't receive a subsidy. But those then who do grow the subsidized crops, which is 99% of the cropland, they don't have to necessarily grow the same crop in order to receive the subsidies. They might get a subsidy because they grew rice, but they may grow soybeans, but they can't grow fruits and vegetables. That's one of the stipulations. It's a restriction. If they grow subsidized crops, they can't grow fruits or vegetables on that land. If they grow fruits and vegetables, they not only lose that subsidy money, they have to pay another penalty.
So how does all of this apply to you and me, and especially Quashunda and her twins? As the saying goes, follow the money. The farm that supported the Edwards family has gone under, and a recent car wreck limits how they can get around. Quashunda herself only brings in about $200 a week to support a family of 5. At the moment, their only option is government assistance.
Food stamps, and that's it. And they on Medicaid, so we get by.
That a lot of the access issues revolve around consumer demand. So in rural areas, which are highly impoverished, where there's usually low levels of educational attainment, and people eat what they're used to eating, foods high in fat and high carbohydrate content type foods, and that there's the foods that they've always had around them that they're used to. Those better alternatives are usually more expensive. And you know, they are impoverished regions, and they have to be very careful as to how they spend their discretionary food dollar.
And this trend of larger Mississippians in general continues today. Art Cosby is the director of the Social Science Research Center at Mississippi State University. The organization has been studying obesity in Mississippi for a while, and the numbers are not good. We asked him just how obese Mississippi is.
The overall rates are running a little excess of 30% right now, but the trajectory is toward 40% and 50% if they're maintained, which I think is just an incredibly high number. Now, there are certain subpopulations within the state that are up to 50%, and African American females right now are pushing 50% being obese. And when you look at the trend, it's not just that group, though. When you point out a group like that, I think it's very misleading in one respect, because Almost every single group that you look at in the society is on the same trajectory. They're just at a different point in this bad pattern.
Wait, let's hear that last part again.
Almost every single group that you look at in the society is on the same trajectory. They're just at a different point in this bad pattern.
In case his meaning isn't clear, Dr. Cosby is saying that the rate of Mississippians getting fatter is going up at shocking rates, no matter what your race, age, or social status is. Another important component of this issue is health disparities. Simply put, health disparities are gaps in the quality of health care among different groups. Experts believe that gaps exist in Mississippi when you look at things from a poverty standpoint. Dr. Warren Jones has seen many of Mississippi's troubles up close. He was formerly head of the state Medicaid program, and now he heads up the University of Mississippi Medical Center Institute for Geographic and Minority Health Disparities.
Many of the people who were poor didn't have options on what to eat. My family members here in the state love their greens and their chitlins, because on many occasions that's all they had to eat. And so it became the culture to eat those things. And those things were high in fat, high in calories, and low in other nutrients. And so the health scale began to tip tremendously, and obesity became a big problem.
Both Dr. Jones and Dr. Cosby see a strong cultural connection to the state's current problems.
What we have to do is leverage the trusted elements in our communities, in the Black community, white community, Hispanic and Native American communities, and then through them come up with meaningful programs and activities that evaginate up and have people own that outcome. I think that's the way we deal with it, and we change the cultural component. I've got an 8-year-old. My 8-year-old is thin, and she's often teased because she's thin. She's got 8-year-old cousins and friends who are obese already, and they're quite positive, quite happy with being obese. I don't understand why. Their parents allow them to be obese.
I think when you go to obesity, given its nature, you better have some things that's going to happen in the family. Think how many calories are consumed in a family setting. I think what happens in education is so important because that's how you pass from one generation to the next. The knowledge and the beliefs and practices are so important to us.
So why does this matter to you if you aren't one of the 30 to 40% of Mississippians who are already overweight? What if you're one of those people we see running each morning or even heading to the gym? Should you even care? Well, if you pay taxes, you should, because no matter how healthy you are and how hard you work out, you're still paying to take care of your overweight neighbors. According to Mississippi State economists, in 2008, every tax-paying adult in the state paid an extra $441 out of pocket that went to paying for costs associated with obesity. In 2013, that number is expected to go up to $738 per adult. And 5 years later, you're looking at $1,757 less in each person's pocket, all because of obesity. That's a fourfold increase based on the last 5 years of increasing obesity and the rising cost of health care. So what if a miracle happened and Mississippi stopped getting fatter? If things stayed exactly like they were in 2008, no less and no more obesity, the state would save $402 million in 2013. If all stayed the same, the amount of money saved in 2018 would be over $2 billion. $2,244 million saved, to be exact. Presenteeism, absenteeism, Medicaid, Medicare, with all of this information lumped in our back pockets, we felt the need to visit the people on the front lines, the farmers who toil the land each and every day, and must make their living at the mercy of Mother Nature. We met with Mississippians on two sides of the agricultural spectrum. One was a full-time farmer, supported by government subsidies. The other a local woman spurred on by the need to know where her food is coming from. First up was Egypt Plantation, boyhood home and current place of business, For farmer Jim Thomas,
Egypt Plantation was founded in 1835, receiving its first patent from the U.S. government for a quarter section. And then my grandfather bought it in 1919 with his first cousin.
over the years the crops have changed a bit.
Primarily cotton. Then I'd say soybeans came in probably in the 60s, although I don't know exactly. And then corn came in the 90s. And well, before that there was milo and some wheat. And then corn came in the 90s. And it's a good rotation crop with cotton.
As has the technology, but even more dramatic, the change in the social landscape.
A lot of people used to live out in the country, live on the farms, and now most people live in the towns. And most people don't want to live in the country anymore because we don't have as many high-paying jobs around here. And you know, we need more industry, we need more entrepreneurs, we need people developing jobs.
Thomas has been operating this farm since he took over operations from his brother in 2005. Before that, he was a full-time lawyer in Jackson. This experience has given him a unique perspective on farming in Mississippi and the current subsidy system.
We couldn't survive without it. It provides a safety net in years when we don't have good prices. Like 2005 when I started farming, we had Hurricane Katrina and we had Hurricane Rita, blew down our crops, you know, destroyed some of our crops, and we would have lost a bunch of money that year if we hadn't had the farm program. And it provides a safety net in those years when the prices are lower, we have disasters kind of like that.
And because of that safety net, Jim Thomas won't likely be rotating his commodity crops out with any healthier fare in the near future. He can't afford to.
It takes a lot of labor to grow vegetables and fruits, a lot of labor. That's why these other states that do it, they have to import, you know, immigrants, you know, to pick the produce, pick the vegetables and the fruits. So that's it's just a whole different way of farming, a whole different way of growing, you know, of farming. I mean, farmers are just business people. And business people do things to make a profit. Whatever they're doing, whatever they're buying, growing or selling or producing, they're in it for a profit. And so whatever they can make the most profit in is what they're going to produce or grow. And it's the same way here. And soybeans are down today, all double digits.
And just like that, business goes on. Jim and his workers toil the fields, plant the crops, and help them grow. After that, he doesn't completely know.
How much of what you grow on the farm stays here?
None.
None of it. Where does it go?
All the corn is used here in Mississippi. Mostly it's used by the chicken feed mills. They make feed for chickens that are, you know, grown here in Mississippi, or it goes to the ethanol plant down in Vicksburg. And the soybeans are mostly exported. They go to the Mississippi River, and then they're exported overseas somewhere.
Business aside, this is still Thomas's boyhood home, the place where he grew up.
My fondest memories was getting on a horse and just riding and going swimming in the creek, swimming in the river, swimming in the pond, swimming, you know, in some body of water, or going to riding there, just riding a horse and just discovering things when I was a child. That was my favorite memories.
And it's a place he sees staying in the family, hopefully one day doing more to provide Mississippians with the healthy food and nutrition we need.
You know, frankly, I see it growing some kind of food crop, like peanuts, sweet potatoes, something like that. Eventually, we could get to be like California. I don't know. I mean, why we have some of the most productive land in the world.
And then there's the other side of the story. The side so passionate about who they are and what they eat, they're doing it all on their own dime. This is Dita McCarthy, by weekday a lawyer, by afternoons and weekends a grower of foods, and a local entrepreneur and a philanthropist.
I love to grow vegetables and fruits, and I manage 2 farmers markets.
Dita's love of locally grown food goes back decades. Specifically, back to one controversial little fruit.
It always goes back to tomatoes for a lot of people. The grocery store tomatoes, just don't taste good. They taste like plastic. And so I wanted to be able to get locally grown tomatoes that I remembered from 20 years ago, 30 years ago, I used to be able to buy.
Dita and her family are unique. They live in a house her husband built by hand among lush and serene gardens they've also cultivated by hand. And what began with tomatoes has grown into something much larger and more tangible for Dita.
Because I firmly believe, and I guess passionately believe, that you are what you eat. So I think that we've gotten so far away from realizing how important food is to our health, our well-being, and I'm just trying to, in my own small way, to help people get back to eating healthy, eating to sustain themselves. I just wanted my children to grow up seeing where their food came from. And so I always had them out here, still do, get them out here to help me weed and plant. You take all this off, and then you peel it, and the inside is sweet and crispy, wonderful, delicious. Y'all have to try it. Great substitute for potato chips.
And now what began as sort of a mission for herself and her family has grown into a community. The weekly farmers markets are incredibly well attended, and each week they see more familiar faces who inquire about how to be part of the action.
It's a great place for people to get together, visit, and there's a lot of, the vendors are so excited and happy to talk to the customers, the kids, about what things are. You know, kids are learning what goat cheese is and just where eggs come from. We've had the beekeeper come with his little hive and talk to the children, show the children where the honey comes from, how the bees make the honey. We knew that our customers were interested in growing their own and learning how, but they didn't know anymore. And so we'd been talking with the Extension Service about doing some kind of training. In years past, we only had 10 to 15 people, and they ended up having over 150. So that was exciting.
As the number of markets continues to grow along the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and more people start joining in the effort, Dita and the others are finding themselves more interested in philanthropic and social strides they can make. They want to provide fresh fruits and vegetables to folks on food stamps, those people with the least access to healthy foods. They're already doing the same for fishermen financially strangled by the 2010 Gulf oil spill.
These are worth $1. So right now what we're doing is with the fishermen, they come, I give them $40 in tokens. They show me their commercial fishing license and their ID. I give them $40 in tokens every time they come in a little bag. Then they go around to all the vendors and they can spend it on anything in our farmers market. So when we get the EBT, I'll be performing the same function. They'll come to me, I'll run the card for say $20, $30, give them the tokens to go spend. At the end of the market, I go around to all the farmers, the vendors, and write them a check for the tokens.
The theme here is the same across the board. That theme is local. The markets are local, the people are local, the food is local, and most importantly, the community is local. And they're all working together to challenge an age-old system that prevents many Mississippians from getting the healthy foods that could change their lives, one unusual vegetable at a time.
Okay. This is kohlrabi. This is that kohlrabi I just pulled out of the garden. I just took it inside and I peeled it, pared it, I guess you'd say, and sliced it. And they're delicious, sweet, and crispy.
Can I have it?
Yes, please. Tell me what you think.
It's really good.
Mm-hmm. Without
it's
anything.
Sweet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What do you think it tastes like?
Sort of like cabbage.
Yep, but sweeter and crispier. I love the crispiness. That's
You're
the best
right.
part.
This would be excellent potato chip.
Yes. Way better.
Without potato chip.
Without potato chip.
Can you get these anywhere?
I've never seen them in a store around here, grocery store. Maybe in specialty stores or at the farmer's market.